That's fine. You're welcome. Okay. Well, and we've got several tonight, so you're in the middle. You're in between Jeff and Michael.
Oh, yeah. Pretty slick.
We'll just play it by ear.
Pretty simple, huh? Yeah, really. Does it come out like on the side?
It's bigger tables than normal.
Maybe.
Have a wall.
Right. Yeah. Inside a little bit, yeah. That's nice.
Okay. Okay. We'll just be passing it around.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You guys ready? Very well.
I guess so.
Make it work.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Figure out where I was on this. I'm still lost. All right, if I could have everybody's attention, we will call the February board meeting to order. I trust everybody had a happy Valentine's Day yesterday. So first will be celebrations. Mr. Williams?
We have a celebration. I would like to introduce Michelle Markovich and Adrian Schlake. Michelle is our ALE principal, and Adrian is principal of our Siloam Springs Virtual Academy, and have them come up and make a special presentation.
Well, good evening. I am Michelle Markovich, principal of Main Street Academy, and I'm here with Adrian, and it is our honor tonight to share with you an award that one of the counselors in our district received this past week. On behalf of Ozark Guidance and Arissa Health, Joel Young was presented an award for being the 2022 Mental Health Champion. This was a statewide award that was given out in honor of National Counseling Week. Joel was one of 2 winners from Northwest Arkansas and one of 6 winners from across the state to receive this award. And Adrian and I both nominated him because he works as the Main Street Academy counselor as well as the counselor for high school students in the virtual academy. And some of the thoughts that I shared about why I felt Joel was worthy of this award was because he creates and delivers a weekly social and emotional curriculum for our students, giving our students and our staff the vocabulary and the tools to talk about our emotional health. He helps our students find food, shelter, jobs, a way to regulate, financial aid for future training, and to help them create a plan for their life after graduation. He is an advocate, and he is very attuned. Joel is a positive force at Main Street Academy, and we are able to do the important work that must be done here with his support and influence. And then Director Sheikla had the following things to say.
Okay, so in deciding to recommend Joel for this award, they asked us what we see in our counselor. And so I see Joel as a champion unifier of multiple educational settings. So the partnership of Main Street Academy and the Siloam Springs Virtual Academy within our school district is certainly better together because of Joel Young. Joel goes above and beyond to help students navigate both of the 2 very different programs outside of the traditional on-site high school setting, attending school virtually or at ALE. Joel's especially gifted at managing all different aspects of social and emotional learning. He tirelessly champions for increased parental support and goes above and beyond in connecting with students. He's an advocate for all students and serves as a mentor in developing skills to overcome obstacles that they come across. And congratulations, Joel. We're very lucky to have you.
To say that I was shocked would probably be an understatement. I remember the first day I walked into a classroom in Las Vegas, Nevada to be a guest teacher. I was the 3rd teacher these kids had had in 1 year, and I thought I knew everything. And I'm reminded every day that there's so much more that I need to learn. I've had the privilege of working in this district now. This is my 9th year. I was the administrative assistant at Main Street Academy for 4 years. And one day, Jerry Price and Michelle Markovich looked at me and said, "Why aren't you a counselor? You're already doing the job. Why don't you get trained and get paid for it?" To have somebody see potential in me has been one of the greatest honors of my life. And so thank you for nominating me, and thank you for taking the time to recognize me tonight.
We have to have a picture.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Patrick, comments from patrons?
None this evening.
Okay. Bambi's already back. Wow. Okay, Bambi, let the minutes show we have a established quorum, and the first item will be to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 13th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That'll get us to our reports section, and Mr. Wiggins is up first.
I have a couple items to report. First off, on February 8th, that was last week, we had a Arkansas School Board Association school law seminar that 4 of our 5 board members attended virtually. I was on there for most of the day. The topics included superintendent hiring and employment, a practical guide for legal compliance, lessons for from sexual misconduct investigations, stay safe, student searches in the Fourth Amendment, mandatory reporting of child abuse for board members, which you all are included as mandatory reporters now, and then global teacher recruitment, what school districts need to know about immigration law and hiring. I was able to attend almost all of it. I had to skip out on the last session or part of the second to last one, but it was very good training, I thought. Do any of the board members want to speak to anything that you found interesting?
No, I mean, I thought it was good to sit in, and they did a nice job, you know, virtually as well as they could, and had some good speakers, and yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed it.
I liked the whole class was based on the legal requirements and the law, and I liked that, learning some of that.
The one thing I found interesting, the Stay Safe section, Cody Keys, an attorney with Beckett, Billingsley, and Keys out of Little Rock, did a session on student searches and Fourth Amendment. And actually, he mostly focused on phones, phone usage in schools and teenagers, and the multiple different apps that they have available to them now, and the multiple different ways that those apps can be used, and the problems that they can cause for school districts. And it was very interesting. I wrote down a couple of names of apps to make sure I check my son's phone later. But it was really interesting to me, and it's pretty scary. It's getting easier and easier for people to do things and communicate with each other without any trace afterward. And there was a lot of interesting information in that session, I thought. The second part of my report, I'm going to turn the floor over to our athletic director, Jeff Williams, and he has a presentation on future conferences for athletics. And
Future meeting this year, next year?
I believe next year. Well, I'll let Jeff tell you. He was asking if we're talking about next year. I said, I'll let Jeff tell you that.
Yeah, there's been, and I'm gonna roll through this pretty quick. We've got a lot of changes, not just here at Solomon Springs, it's been all over the state. As far as our conference play, where we're gonna talk about first our high school and our new football conference, big volleyball conference, etc. And basically this really came up this past year, and it's called the competitive equity factor. And I'm gonna not read through this, you can read it, and but I'm gonna explain it as best I can. Basically, the legislature got together and the private schools were really dominating some of the sports. For example, in football, I believe Plastic Academy and Little Rock Christian have played for the 5A state championship or been in it, either one of them, probably the last 6 or 7 years. And so they have scholarships and things like that. They felt like it was not an equal playing field. Now, understand with the private schools, they are already, for example, they're already bumped up a classification. Say Shiloh Christian, numbers-wise, is a 3A school, but they're bumped up playing 4A. So they base this off of wins and losses and came up with a formula. This was passed in July with 157 votes for to go to this and 28 against it. And basically the legislature went to AAA and told them to fix it. And so this is what they came up with. It creates and means a level playing field between public and non-public after concerns raised about the disproportionate numbers of state championships won by non-public schools. By approving this, competitive equity membership schools also agreed to Section 10, Rule 1 bylaws. The AAA has had a bylaw since 2006, and it would have to be 16 teams in 7A, 16 teams in 5A, 16 in 6A, 32 in 5A, 48, 4A, and et cetera, all the way down. That was in the bylaws, and they would not change it. It had to be equal 8 and 8, everything had to be equal conferences. They came back and they have eliminated that. So what you're going to see in high school, you're going to see in 9 and 10 team conferences, which can be a problem with scheduling, but we got it all worked out. Public schools will be assigned their classifications based on a 3-year average of students, grades 9 through 11. Basically, they take your enrollment over a 3-year period from 9 to 11, what your average enrollment is on a daily basis. They do that 2 or 3 times a year. Everybody's probably pretty aware of that, and that's what you're based on as far as what your classification is. This is the competitive equity factor. This is what they came up with. Basically, with a private school, if you win a state championship, you get 4 points. You get 3 points for runner-up state championship, 2 points for a playoff victory, 1 for a conference championship. Points are accumulated. Most points a team can get in one season is 4, obviously. Teams also can be dropped classifications with not getting points, which we'll see an example of that here a little bit later on. Bottom line is, if they're not competitive, they're going to bump them down to classification where they belong. If they are competitive, they're winning state championships, they're going to push them up to the next classification. Bigger schools, 6A and 7A, hadn't seen private schools probably ever since I've been doing this 25 years, been around a long time. Never have seen many private schools in 6 and 7A, which we're fixing to see, which is something different. Competitive equity factor will begin this coming school year. Points will be determined by the past 3 seasons of the upcoming year. So basically they went back the last 3 years, what schools have done as far as in each sport. And with the private schools, to kind of clarify this, you might use Shiloh Christian, for example, they're going to move up to 5A in football, but they might drop to 3A in basketball, just because of the way that their competitive edge is. Silent Springs Athletic, how did they determine this? The TripleA, this is probably the best way to describe this. They pulled, when they went to do the classifications, they got rid of the top 16 and all that. What they did was they pulled all the private schools when they did the mass part of the classifications and pulled them all out and ranked all the public schools. Okay, does that make sense? And so they went through and took the top 16 private schools for 7A. We'll kind of talk about us. The next 16 were 6A. No private schools were in. And then they went after that. They took the numbers, their competitive equity formula, whatever numbers they had, and then they plugged them in from 6A to 7A, and vice versa, all the way down. This is our football conference for next year, which I would say would probably be the toughest in the state. After everything came about, there was a big controversy on where everybody was going, especially the top 2 teams. Next, we'll be in a 9-team conference. The next 2 years, Plastic Academy is moving up from 5A. They hit the bill, so they moved up the classification. Little Rock Christian moved up 1. Lake Hamilton has been in our league. Greenbrier, once they pulled all the private schools up, they were number 32, so they moved up to 6A. And then we got just people we know, Van Buren, Greenwood, Russellville, Mountain Home, Siloam Springs. With the 19 football conference, it means we've got 2 non-conference games. We will play Heritage, one of our non-conference games, and we'll also play Alma. They'll be on our 2 schedules, then we'll get right into conference play. But there will be a bye week in there. Our bye week next year is week 9. The 6A East, they came up, they've got 10 teams in their conference. Searcy, West Memphis, Marion, Greene County Tech moved up as far as alignment to 6A, Sylvan Hills, Benton, Sheridan, Catholic, who was a 7A school, didn't meet the requirements, so they got bumped down, and so they're in the East, El Dorado, and Jacksonville. And so it's the league in 6A has really changed a lot over the last couple of years, and it probably top to bottom. The football is probably the toughest league in the state. Siloam Springs volleyball, that we didn't have much change with that. Normal teams that we've been playing. We lost Bologna, thank the Lord for travel, and picked up Harrison. And they moved up which Harrison's a little ways, but we'll really go to Harrison to Bologna. But they moved up as far as enrollment in volleyball. They won't determine this. We won't know as far as our basketball league or soccer league, bowling, all these things will not be determined until after the season, after they do their point system, obviously. I personally, this is my opinion, I don't see much changes for us in these sports a lot, maybe in soccer. I could see us losing Bologna and Harrison popping in on those other ones. Another part, and that's where we're at with the high school, we'll wait and see what happens with that. The other, probably the biggest thing we've had come forward as far as athletic movement conference is our new junior high conference. This started coming about last spring. Some athletic directors were talked to them, watched some administrators on just where we're at in Siloam Springs in our junior high league, which is our feeder, and it's so important. I mean, it's just kind of like an elementary school building up to the junior high to the high school. And so I think this is a real positive thing for us in our athletic program. Our new junior high conference will be football, basketball, volleyball, track, and cross country. I think we got to know where we were at before. This was our old conference. We were the NWAC of Fayetteville, Ramey, Woodland, Fayetteville, Purple, and White. They were split 9th grade team at that time. Okay, I think eventually they'll probably go to one team. Springdale, we had a different outlook. They had Lakeside, Southwest Georgia, and Central. We're all familiar with that. Rogers has gone to Elmwood. Oakdale, Kirksey, Rogers Heritage has one team. Rogers has one team. And then Bentonville, Washington, Lincoln, Fullback, Grimsley. Bentonville has one team, and Bentonville West has one 9th grade team. If you see that, the combination, probably the biggest difference of what it was before, everything was split up. And now they're all together. And we're probably not playing Bentonville or Bentonville West. We do in basketball and some other sports, but we don't play them on a consistent basis. Why join this league? It's called the Northwest River Valley Junior High Conference. First thing is this: we want to play teams that we're playing in our high school conference. Our kids go to Greenwood, football, basketball, whatever. We don't see those people until they're in the 10th grade. And I think it's very important, we'll talk about the next one, is renew those rivals we had in the past. Siloam Springs always had great rivals with Alma, Greenwood, Van Buren back in the day. We're trying to play the teams and renew those rivals. And I think there's something special when you're in the 7th grade and you're playing against that team, and that's a team you got to beat. It's a lot specialer when you're a senior when you get there. And it's for our coaches also. We know what they got coming. We know what we got coming. Future teams that we'll play in our conference. A lot of these teams I'm fixing to pull up there are not in our conference right now, but I would say the next 5 to 7 years, a lot of them are going to bump up with the growth of the Pea Ridges of the world, Prairie Grove, obviously with Shiloh Christian and their success they've had. They'll maybe bump up. We're end up looking down the future of what we're going to be playing in high school later on. And competing with school our size and numbers. Best way to describe this, we'll play in football, play Bentonville West or Bentonville, they've got 95 players, we got 32. That's not realistic for us. That's not what the teams that we're fixing to play that we're fixing to be all about. We want to grow our numbers in our athletic program. What I've seen over the years is the more success that you have, and that doesn't necessarily mean wins and losses, but and our coaches do an outstanding job here of building culture and doing things with our kids to promote their programs. But the more successful that you are, the more your numbers are going to grow. You're seeing numbers, and most sports are growing, some sports are not, and that's not just here, that's across the state. Safety, went there with 90 players, we got 32, we get 4 or 5 injured, not being able to play. It's not probably a great situation for our kids. It gives our high school coaches a chance to be more involved with our junior high programs. Basketball and volleyball, for example, this past year, we might have 3 different teams rolling our gym. We might have Grimsley playing their 9th grade, we might have had Southwest playing their 7th and 8th grade, and then our high school was playing out. I didn't know who was playing where, to just be honest with you. And so we kind of want to narrow that down where our coaches get to see our kids perform from the 7th all the way up to the 12th grade level. This is our football conference. This is our 7th and 8th grade conference. We have Siloam, Harrison, Van Buren has 2 7th and 8th grade teams, Northridge, Butterfield, Greenwood, Pea Ridge, Farmington, Shiloh, Christian, Alma. Dardanelle got removed from their league and asked to come in late, and we helped them out. And then we have Prairie Grove. Most of these schools, if you look at it, probably 5 to 7 years down the road, they're going to be in our conference. And the people on there, they realize that too, and so we're trying to get it together. 9th grade would be the same thing, besides the Van Buren has 1 9th grade team. These are the teams that we're going to be playing on Friday night, Tuesday nights, in all sports eventually down the road. I think it's a very competitive league. It took us a lot of time to put this together, and I think it's going to be great for our football, obviously, and all our other sports. Football games will be played be a little bit different. We'll have our 8th grade game and JV game on Monday night. Our 7th and 9th grade will be on Thursday, and obviously high school on Friday. Really like the 9th grade. We've been playing 9th grade on Monday. We'd like to have them on Thursday night, really feature those guys a little bit more than what they have been for our football program. Volleyball and track and cross country, 7th and 8th grade. Now understand, some of those teams you see are not on there. They're in the 4A. In their other sports, they're dropped, and they weren't committed on coming up. Hopefully in the future they will be. We got Siloam Springs, Harrison, Farmington, Alma, both Van Buren and Greenwood. That's all our other schools and our other sports, that part of it. This is our 9th grade, same thing, same group of people. Volleyball and basketball game nights will be on Mondays and Thursdays. We're going to do a triple header, 7 through 9, boys at one spot, girls at the other. And I get this all the time. It can be tough on parents if you got 2 kids. I talked to one the other day about that. They're in different locations. But this gives our coaches an opportunity. If Tim Stewart wants to go watch our whole program play, he can be there and watch them all night long. And I think that's very important for coaches, the younger coaches that we have, that they can help them and create that situation. We will host the conference track meet here. And track and cross country, they'll kind of do their own thing, and then we'll come together and have a conference meet in track and cross country. We have still, after leaving the NWAC conference, we talked to them. We always have a regional tournament, basketball and track. They've agreed to do that with us, which I think is a big deal. If you can get to play in a regional tournament, that nobody else in the state really does that. They'll take the top 4 teams in our league, take the top 4 teams in their league, and then we'll have a tournament, and then also a track meet. That's pretty much in a nutshell as far as what we're trying to do and where we're headed. For us, done a lot of research on this, just watching things in a brief period. We've got to do what the main thing is A lot of times we all get together and we lose focus. The main focus is what do we do, what's best for our kids. At the end of the day, it's not what's always best for adults, what is best for our kids. In this situation, obviously the high schools, we don't have any control of, but with our junior high program, it's gonna put us renewing those rivals, more of a level playing field, giving our kids an opportunity. And think about Siloam, so it's a little bit more travel. Well, it is a little bit, but we're used to travel. And I think it's gonna be a great thing for our junior high programs. And then our high school programs, it is what it is. It's the toughest league in the state, bottom line. But that's part of it. We signed up for it. We're not scared of it. And we're really excited. Has anybody got any questions? I know I went through that briefly at all. I can answer. All right, thank you very much. Go Panthers and go Hawks now.
So I want to follow up on that just a little bit and say that when we hired Jeff last summer to be our athletic director, the junior high conference was a focus of mine because we'd been in that Northwest Arkansas conference for so long, playing the 7A schools for so long, and we've taken some beatings at the junior high level. And when we've had good groups come through, we've won half of our games, maybe, and then struggled against some of those really big teams. So that was a focus of mine, and asked Jeff to have it make it a focus of his to try to figure something out different for our junior high. And it took a lot of political pull, a lot of push and pull, and a lot of compromise to get to where we are today. And I appreciate Jeff's work on that. So
I do have one question I just thought of when you were saying that, Jody, for junior high. So I'm a big soccer guy. So I'm just wondering about some of the other, and I don't think you said baseball. So like baseball, soccer, are there other sports that could develop it? Because I know junior high soccer.
If you look around, nobody really has a junior. I mean, there's very few. It's coming about just a little bit junior high baseball, junior high soccer.
Right.
Nobody in the state really, that usually starts in the 9th grade. You look at everybody across the state, 7th and 8th grade, it's more club sports and things like that. And then in the 9th grade, in the future that might happen. But as right now, the junior high part and those sports are not there, and it's not here. It's clearly all the way through the state.
Yeah.
But soccer, back to the high school part of it, that's the one we don't know where everybody's going to come, because you got Little Rock Christian, who's been pretty dominant. They're in our league. They're already in our league. But
Yeah.
there might be some others.
Yeah.
Just got to wait and see how they do.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll just say I love it growing up here. I mean, everyone knows Harrison, Alma,
Yep.
Greenwood. Those were our big games, and so excited to see that going back to the history of it.
I appreciate the work you did as well on that. So it'll be nice to see our programs build because of that.
Yeah, we've got to start blocks and that part of it, and our coaches do an amazing job here, do a phenomenal job. One thing I will say, and I'll get off because I've got other businesses. Our coaches here, I've been to a lot of different places. We do not have a coach in this district that does not care about kids. You can't say that everywhere else in the state, and we're lucky to have it.
Agreed.
Yep.
I'll let that conclude my report.
That's it?
Yep.
All right. Okay, Amy.
It is on. I wasn't sure if it was on since he got to walk the floor. I might try that in a week, month or so. Anyway, okay, it's good evening. Glad to be here. I have several teaching and learning updates. So our virtual academy has opened their registration for the upcoming school year. And so just wanted to make that public so that those that are watching or whatnot will be aware of that. Ms. Lake has been sending out flyers and putting flyers around all of the schools and different things. So that is back on our radar. We do not intend for Virtual Academy to go anywhere. That has been a vision pre-pandemic, as we've talked about many times, and we want to just continue to nurture that and grow that over time. So that has opened for registration. They're looking at a soft close sometime in March, but again, it will have a rolling continuation until we really need to finalize numbers. Next would be interim testing is starting in each of our buildings, and so they will test in math and ELA and science, and that's grades 3 through high school. That data will be interim 2, as we call that, so it'll be the second round. So this data piece that occurs in each building will allow our teachers, principals, the ability to look at the interim 1 data and be able to compare how are the kids growing in those subject areas from point A now to point B. And that will give us a little snapshot before our state assessments happen in late April and early May. And so that's a rolling piece. Each building works with Ms. Sweebeck to schedule their assessments, and so everybody kind of has their own little timeline on when that will occur. But between now and spring break, all of those buildings will be assessing. Another piece is, this is National CTE Month. So we have a fabulous CTE program, and DESE asked our AVTF department to create a quick little video, and we're going to share that with you, but this video is being shared around the state, and so we just wanted to highlight our own.
One of the biggest reasons why CTE classes are important to have in a school is because the general education classes, while they give you your foundational knowledge, the things that you just need wherever you go, CTE is going to be able to expose you to a huge variety of different industries and just different things you could do as a profession after you graduate. The skills that are in CTE classes are going to be based on the fundamentals you learn in a general education class, but they take it further and they kind of make it more targeted to something that has specifically to do with a career path. For example, in my courses, one thing that all my students see and start to learn how to use is equipment like laser cutters or 3D printers. That's technical knowledge that you wouldn't get in another class. The CTE classes that you have the opportunity to take are going to expand your vision of what are the things that you can do. It's really just taking those skills that you're already getting in your other classes and just leveraging them towards something that's specific to a career. What I would say to students who are thinking about a particular CTE course, just think about the stuff that you like to do in your spare time. Think about what you enjoy, and there's probably a CTE class that's going to cover at least a part of that.
So our own AVTF department created that, and like I said, that'll be shared around the state just to promote CTE programs all around. So Luke isn't able to be here because he's on the soccer field working towards that state championship that we talked about this morning. We gave him a hard time. But he did announce April 22nd would be our signing day for our senior completers. And so he had us put that on our calendars this morning for those of us that would be able to make that. So that will all of that comes through our CTE. One of our other pieces next week, the week of the 21st through April the 6th, we will be ELPA testing, which we will have 865 students across our district take our ELPA test. And so that those numbers were finalized this morning by Dr. Carter, who is over our ESOL programs. And so that will start, and so that will make every building very busy to get 865 students tested along that time. And then one last piece is teacher recruitment. For the last couple of years, due to the pandemic, a lot of our colleges and universities have made recruitment pieces virtual, which is a little hard to get to see candidates, but we are back to many of those being face-to-face, and so Amy Sanchez is spearheading that along with several principal and building level leaders. And tomorrow is the first one hosted in Russellville at Arkansas Tech. And so Ms. Sanchez will be attending that and sharing out Siloam Springs and all of the wonderful information that she can share. And our AVTF department also created a video that she will be showing at the table and setup area that displays all of our good things from kindergarten through high school. So we're excited for that. We're excited for those to be back face to face to help gather and pull in people that would be right for Siloam and be a fit. Our next piece is going to come from Northside. And so our interim tests 3 through high school are just starting, but our younger folks have just completed their assessment pieces. And so Ms. Price from Northside is going to give us some updates and show us some 3-year trends. So I'm going to turn this over to her for this last little piece. But do you have any questions for me before I step away and let her take over? Okay, good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right. Well, I certainly thank Amy for the opportunity to share the good work that's going on at Northside. I'm extremely proud of our staff, the teachers, the administrative staff, and our interventionist, instructional facilitator. Everyone there has been working so hard. So I'm pretty excited about what I'm about to share with you. As you know, it's been extremely challenging this last 3 years in public education everywhere. And we have all been in survival mode and just barely making it, it feels like at times. But at Northside, our data coming in from December and again in January, that's a big push for us as far as assessments go. Has started to show that we are coming through it and that we're not just surviving, but we are truly thriving and our kids are truly thriving. So as we look at this data, I want you to remember that right now at this current time, we have the highest absenteeism rate that we've probably had in the history of education between quarantines, isolations, parents keeping their children home in an abundance of caution, a change of policy where it's not just, to be out for 24 hours when you get sick, but you have to be out for 48 hours instead. With all of that, attendance is probably at its lowest point in forever. The next thing is also that behaviors that are challenging in classrooms have increased a lot over the last few years. As you can imagine, lots of kids aren't going to camps, they're not going to Sunday school, they're not doing those activities that really, in a lot of ways, has prepared them to be in a classroom, to sit still, to sit on the carpet, to interact with other students, and to be able to, make friends and be a good friend. It's challenging for us right now. So in the midst of all that, this is what we are seeing at Northside. So on the first part, I want you to look at the chart and look at the far left, and you'll see that that's the year that we're talking about. So you see the top is 2021-22, and so that's the year we're on. And then in the middle is last year, and then we go to the year that COVID hit. So we have data up till Christmas of that year, actually up through the third quarter of that year, that we can compare to. And right here, I want to say that the data that you're going to see from 3 years ago, the year that they hit COVID, COVID, Michelle Payton and her team, when she was at Northside, and this team that I'm working with now had already set a positive trajectory. They had already done a lot of work on the science of reading and were really headed in the right direction. And then, of course, COVID hit and we went remote for 9 weeks and everything else that took place with that. So I'm going to draw your attention to the green squares. So this data is for letter identification. So of course in kindergarten, one of the most important things that we teach is teach them to identify their letters, that a B is a B and a D is a D. And then the other things will go from there. But this data shows that in December, our students knew an average of 93% of their letters. Okay, that's pretty high and that's good. When you look at where they were 2 years ago prior to COVID, they were at 95%. So they were ahead of us there. The next point that I want to show is in the blue. And in the blue, what you're seeing is the goal is that students know all of their letters, 100%. So that's the percentage of students that know 100% of their letters. And if you'll notice that we've gone up on that percentage, we're at 81%, where they were at 73% 3 years ago. So that number has gone up. The other thing that tells you is that there are a small number of students that are really pulling down the data to a certain degree, and that's those behaviors that we talked about. So you can see that that's uppercase and lowercase right there. And then we go to the data that to me is the most important. So just to give a quick explanation, letter sound correspondence is understanding that a B sounds like B when I read. And then decoding is simply sounding words out. And encoding is being able to write a word and spell it correctly when it's given to you orally. So decoding is you basically reading the word cat, and encoding is a teacher saying the word cat and you being able to write C-A-T. So that's what those two things are. So if we look at letter sound correspondence, these are simple averages. We're at 79.6%. Right now, just on that assessment. We give an assessment, and that's the average score of all of our students. And you can see the trajectory is set in a positive way. We were at 77% last year in a major dip, and then now we're increasing. And for decoding, we have 60% currently. They were at 53% 2 years ago. And so decoding and encoding, our desire is that they're at 100% at the end of the year. So we assume that January, when we do these assessments, anything beyond 50% is positive. And so we're at 60% and then 61% for encoding and decoding. So we're seeing a positive trajectory. And we're seeing students grow in ways that really, with the challenges that we're facing, are really positive. And I cannot begin to express how proud of the team at Northside, the team that I'm just incredibly proud of them. The things that we kind of attribute this to is focus. We focus on quality instruction every single day in the classroom. That's whole group instruction. We also are a team that personalizes learning at Northside. Our teachers personalize the learning every single day through small group instruction, one-on-one if needed, and then our intervention period where we share students between different classrooms that have like needs. The other thing that we think of is just that collective effort and collective responsibility. Everybody in the building is responsible for every single student. Our specials teachers do interventions or support students that have high levels of behaviors when they're not teaching specials. And everybody jumps in throughout the entire building. Our interventionists, I know that we have money set aside from the federal government that pay for our interventionists, the 2 interventionists that you've given us at Northside in every building. But whenever we look at this data, the students that struggle the most are seen one-on-one by those interventionists. And it's a really important part of what is happening in all of our schools. And then I think responsive leadership is also a part of why this works. And I can't tell you how proud of the leadership team at Northside. I'm incredibly proud of them, of Brandy Fox, Gina McAdoo, Barb Mackin, and Valerie Smith. These are people that every single day are supporting kids one-on-one and in every situation, but they're doing a lot more than that. They are supporting the adults in the building so that the adults can manage everything that is coming at them. And the way that they lead by supporting adults has been key in everything that we have done. If the adults are not at a good place, if they're so stressed, if they're so worried about not being able to take off to take their child to a doctor's appointment because we don't have subs, things like that, then they can't be at their best for our kids. And so those 4 people have been just so important to leading the team at Northside and supporting the adults so that they can support the kids. So I just want to thank Amy for the opportunity to brag a little bit on our team, and just to tell you that there are a lot of good things happening in Siloam Springs right now. And in some ways, while it is so challenging, we are not just surviving, and we are thriving. And I think that this is just going to carry on as we go forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that concludes my report.
Mr. Patrick?
First, I want to give a brief overview. I think since our last school board meeting, the governor has come out and changed the mandates for quarantining in the school system. We had been operating off of a mandate that we would contact trace and we would quarantine those people that we identified as a close contact. And we now no longer are having to do that. And honestly, we had really kind of done a really good job with our staff, had done a good job of maintaining separation in our classroom, that we were still having some quarantining going on, but by and large, our quarantining had come way down based on how our teachers and our building principals were making sure that everything we were doing, we were staying separate. Where we couldn't do that is where we were finding the problems, on buses, small groups at our elementary school and different places. But because the governor no longer has taken that mandate away, we no longer are doing that. So now we are only identifying those people that had test positive, and they have to serve their isolation period, which has not changed with the new recommendations and mandates. And then anybody with symptoms. And the thing that I think is real important for us, and this is a change of mentality from years and years of just our culture in America, not just in Siloam Springs, like you don't always feel good, so you come to work. We've got to differentiate between, to keep our schools safe and healthy, we got to differentiate between what I don't feel good and I'm sick. When you come to school, when we send our children to school sick, they spread sickness. I don't care if it's COVID. I don't care what it is. It's flu, whatever. So we're trying to get the word out. We don't want people coming to school sick, and we don't want our employees coming to school sick. So whether they get tested or they don't get tested is not the issue. If they're sick, we want to keep them at home. And that's been our messaging since that mandate came about, because we're trying to keep our schools safe. We are still isolating, but we are no longer quarantining people. Does anybody have any questions about that? I will tell you our numbers our positive case numbers are at an all-time low right now. Since this thing started, we've never been, I think we're below 5 in district-wide.
Wow.
So, all right. Any questions about this? It's been a long process to get here, and hopefully the best is yet to come as we move forward and we don't have to go backwards. A month ago, I was a little leery about doing this because the numbers were so high and we had so many people testing positive. But I feel real good where we're at now, and hopefully we'll stay on this trajectory.
How are your bus driver numbers?
We're holding our own. We've got an opening. We would like to hire. We're looking. So if anybody out there wants to drive a bus, we'll sure put you to work. We'll get you trained up and get you tested and put to work. You know. But everybody's fairly healthy right now.
I set you up for that plug.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you for your work during this time. I, from personal experience, know that you do a great job with the tracing that you did have to do that was mandated. And I just appreciate your hard work and diligence, and thank you very much.
I appreciate it. I have to say, and I want to formally do this at even more extensive at a later date, but our school nurses have done an awesome job through this whole deal. Lori Tugwell and her staff have really gone above and beyond the call of duty and put in tireless amount of time. Lori and I both have worked a ton, but Lori has really worked a ton, and I really appreciate what she's done. And so I really want to thank them, but thank you for that comment. Any other questions about COVID? All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to bring Mike Spaeth up, our district architect, and we have some renderings, some preliminary renderings for you guys to look at here on our new administration building. And so,
thank you. I'd also like to introduce Scott Jones.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have done
with
that.
Milestone Construction, chief estimator, and he's working with us as well. So it's incredible to have him on the team. He's the best estimator I've ever known.
Wow.
Figure I have to introduce him. My name is Mike Spaeth. I'm with Build Architects in Fayetteville. So I'm going to give everybody an update on where the design of your new administration building is. And I think I need to shrink this down just a little bit. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I think is there a way to? Oh.
I don't know how that is.
Maybe tap that a few times to. That should work. Okay.
No, you can probably make it.
Okay, so obviously the location for the future administration building will be off of Sherry Whitlock, and this is Progress. You have the dental clinic here, and then you've got your piece of property here. So the property line is a little tricky in that from Sherry Whitlock, it runs approximately here before it gets somewhere between this single tree and these trees. Then it shoots to the east, and then it goes down along this tree line, about 7.5 acres-ish. We anticipate the development for this project is going to be somewhere in the 3 to 4 acres. Really depends on how we're going to accommodate on-site detention, things like that. But we're definitely not going to need the entire 7.5 acres, approximately half. But because your property line is like the northern third of your property line along the east, it creates a kind of a pinch point right here. But we want our building to be as close to Sherry Whitlock as possible for visibility. And one of the initial challenges was whether or not we're going to have a fire lane going all the way around the building. But fortunately, I coordinated with your local deputy fire marshal, Dustin, and we determined that fire apparatus dead end here and turn around here, we do have full building coverage. So we were able to squeeze the building between this property line and this property line before it jogs further to the east. But generally speaking, we would have a curb cut along Sherry Whitlock, and we would have parking along the north end, along the west, and then along the south. And a possibility at some point in the future to tie in Wisteria, whether or not that happens during this phase or in the next one. At this point, we're not planning on doing that tie-in unless something changes. And we'll get to these exterior renderings. But I wanted to walk you through the floor plan. This is just a very 30,000-foot overview of what's going to go within your administration building. So it's definitely broken up into departments where you've got your business, you've got virtual, central administration, where superintendent's offices will be, ESL, special ed, nurse director, food service director, and then the building services. So the building has two main entrances. One entrance which would be to the north, that would be shared between ESL and special ed. That's where we currently have those two departments. We also have the main entrance to the building, which would be facing west, and this would be the main entrance for the public, whether they want to go into the business department or they want to go into virtual. And this large room here, this represents what would be the future boardroom. And so just a very brief, and it's kind of hard to tell, this is blue and this is purple, if you can kind of tell the difference a little bit. Hopefully you can tell the difference. But just to walk you through the floor plan from north to south, we have ESL, we have special ed, we have business, which is, it's kind of spread through the building to some degree. We have nurse, and we also have food services here. We have a break room, which is somewhat central to the building. We have gang restrooms, both for the public and also for the staff. And then this far southern pod here, which will be virtual and is comprised of smaller virtual classrooms, plus a large testing center, which would also serve as a boardroom. And this is a two-story building. And the two-story portion is at the far north end of the building, give the highest part of the building the most visibility to Sherry Whitlock. And because of that, we have vertical circulation that we have to provide. So we do have one interior stair, one exterior stair, which I'll get to that, and also one elevator. The point of the exterior stair is by putting it to the exterior, one, it saves square footage, and also two, you can barely make it out, but we wanted to provide the ability to add on to this building at some point in the future, or at least just make provisions to with minimal difficulty. So by doing an exterior stair here, it should be an inexpensive item that we can just easily remove if we decide to add on to the building to the east. But central administration would be on the second floor here. This would be the superintendent's office, but we also have other offices that are up there as well. So this is a conceptual floor plan layout. We're not necessarily locked in on the location of each and every wall and door, but generally speaking, this is how the circulation would work through the building, and this is the separation of all the various different departments. And if at any point you have any questions, feel free to stop. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep rambling. Okay, as far as the exterior look of the building, what we wanted to do was pull from some of the vernacular and or the materials or even the color of the high school, which is just a stone throw, a very far stone throw, but a stone throw from this building location. So pulling from the red brick, maybe using clay masonry that would have colors similar to the cast stone that's on your high school. Maybe look at having some shiny metal panel. But right now everything is conceptual, but we established a look that we want to see how we can accomplish having a two-story front to the building that faces Sherry Whitlock, but it also is going to have two levels. We want the main entrance to the building to be here, but also have a tall story and a half. It's just somewhat of a grandiose entrance. So when you walk into the building, you're not just walking into a 9-foot ceiling space, but something that it creates a statement. I guess without being too grandiose. And that's something for me to figure out and get y'all's approval on. But this would be the view from the northwest looking southeast. So basically, we're standing approximately here looking this way. The next view, the camera's here looking this way. And like I said, and I've told Shane this before, we've got work to do on colors. I promise you, the rendering program, this didn't look quite as yellow-green. It especially looks, it must be the color of the paint on this wall, but we've got work to do on the colors. But the point is this is a possible concept where we would pull from similar colors to the high school just to tie the buildings together without doing an exact replication of the building. But this is the south end of the building. This would represent the virtual and also the boardroom. And so the eave height here would be somewhere 22, 23 feet above finished floor level. But the eave height at the far north end, which is the two-story portion, that's somewhere currently around 30 to 35 feet tall. We're looking at maybe a 15-foot floor to floor, but that's something that it will get finalized as we nail down the design. So this is a good view because I think this gives everybody a basic understanding of what the building is doing. But in addition to that, I wanted everybody to get an idea of how we plan on doing management of rooftop units. And so we have a relatively decent sized low slope roof that we're going to put our rooftop units on. When I say low slope roof, either the structure is going to be flat, but we're going to have tapered insulation, or the structure is going to be low slope. But either way, we're not going to have any flat roofs anywhere. That was told to me 15 years ago. Has it been that long yet?
It's been reiterated since then.
Yeah, so you told that to me many years ago, and to this day I have not given you a flat roof. But the goal is to put all the rooftop units here, and if they're going to supply the first floor, they're just going to go down and do distribution. If they're going to supply the second floor, they'll just do a sidewall, then they'll go vertically before they go above ceiling, and then they'll do air distribution. We would also do a unit or two on this side, and we would through wall here, and then we would do air distribution over the virtual department. As far as the other roofs go, my goal is not to put any rooftop units on those. There's a chance that those may be structural standing seam metal roof panels. So at most, they may have plumbing vents penetrating them, but otherwise, I don't want to stick anything on there. But whether or not these are standing seam roof and this is a membrane roof, those are things that we still need to decide upon. And so, but this just serves as, it's a concept rendering, just to see if this look is something that the district would gravitate towards. And just wanted to explain to you guys just the thought process behind how we got to where we currently are. That is my presentation. Are there any questions? Sir?
I always have a question on stuff like that. You said expansion to the east. How much, what are we talking? How
30
much
to
room
40
is
feet.
there?
30 to 40 feet.
Is it really?
Ish, yes.
Ish.
Yes, and with that, we also have coverage without needing a fire lane going all the way around the building. The key to the fire lane is we don't have to put asphalt paving down. So that's significant savings to the district.
So that was one of the things that we talked about with Mike on the front end, that when we build a building, we can't be planning for the building to last 20 years. We've got to be planning on the building to last 50 years or more. And so without us knowing what Siloam Springs and Siloam Springs School District looks like, 30 years from now, 20 years from now, I wanted this building to be able to have the capacity to grow as the administration building needs to grow. So that was one of the keys. And on that drawing right there, it's kind of hard when he showed you where the lot line was. It's kind of hard to imagine that there's that much space to grow, but there is enough to add, as Mike said, 30 to 40 feet on either the north end or the south end, where the virtual is. And then we could also go out the south end to the south into that parking at some point if we needed to. But it's designed in such a way that we can add on at some point if we need to.
I think it looks good.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you could fix the colors, I mean, really.
I apologize.
That's just throwing me off.
Yeah.
Oh, good work. It looks,
great.
Pretty sharp.
Thank you.
Fun.
I'd like to reiterate the fact what Jody just said. Like, we're really trying to be thoughtful about the future on all of this, not just the building, but the site plan, about any future things that we would do. We have to have a detention pond, and if at some point when we're ready to do baseball, softball on our property, we don't need to take up property for a detention pond over there if we can possibly include it. So one of the things I've asked Mike to do is have our engineers look at, how big does the detention pond need to be for this to adequately take care of the baseball, softball at the same time, or if it's possible. So we do one detention pond instead of two at different times. So we're trying to be thoughtful and think ahead of what things might come up down the road that we could take care of on the front end that would save us money later on. And so, any other questions?
I have a question. So I was asked this when board members saw that this was on the agenda tonight. I was asked when we might expect a GMP, and I don't want to put you guys on the spot, so I know you're working on that, but if you can give us kind of a best case scenario, worst case scenario timeline, maybe.
It's going to take probably 3 months to design. We need to allot 1 month for state review minimum. Department of Health, they've been pretty good at, I just had a project get reviewed from the Department of Health for review times 2 weeks, which is pretty difficult. It's Department of Education that takes forever. I mean, they're very busy, but they also have to review for all, they have to wait for all approval letters from the other agencies to come in before they can give approval. So minimum 1 month for review time. I would probably, if you remember all the improvements we did for this campus that we're at right now, the review time is a little over 2 months. And I think the holdup was the State Fire Marshal's office. So minimum 1 month, 2 months, I would say max for review time. And then concurrent to that, they'll provide additional pricing, but they aren't allowed, as I understand it, to actually issue the drawings out to bid until final Department of Education approval has been given. I have had my hands slapped for doing that one time, and it's not something that I want to do again.
So we said, I think Mike and I had this discussion earlier. I think we're looking at June, maybe at best case scenario, maybe by the June board meeting. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, next month. Would you say is that July?
Ish. Yes. I don't want to make myself too perform like this, but ish. I mean, there are things that we can do to expedite construction if the district wants, like issue a second site package, site grading and storm drainage, if you want. But I think the risk with that is that we're going to have pricing for only a portion, like maybe 10 or 15% of the total cost of the work, while the rest of it has to still go out to bid. So you're committing to something without knowing what the final dollar might be. I think the right, I don't want to speak to you, but
I think you're exactly right. It's something we can certainly look at. I think we want to evaluate where we're at with the design and are estimating at that point to see how comfortable we feel about the overall cost before we want to commit to an early site package.
Right now, the costs, I think that seems to be the most common question that I'm asked is the cost of construction and lead times. One of my business partners' projects has work units with a 33-week lead time. Rooftop units, 33 weeks. That's over half a year. It's just unprecedented. I'm hearing good things about steel, but of course, many people strike when the iron is hot. So when steel lead times start to go down, maybe people that have projects on the shelf ready to bid and we issue them immediately. And so we're kind of back to where we started. I can't speak as well to that as he could, but that's always the number one question is cost of construction and lead time. And we would be doing a disservice to the district if we just go as quickly as we can, put it out to bid and just tell you, well, here are the numbers on bid day. It's our responsibility to advise you on what we think this is going to cost. And now more than ever, it's critical to try to evaluate the construction industry. It seems like costs, I mean, they've got like a 1 week expiration. It just seems like every time you have a conversation on what something costs, you have to reevaluate it the following week. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's definitely unprecedented. We've had some steel bids that have been good for 24 hours, which is, wow. Haven't seen that in really ever. But we're working through those things, though, and I think things are improving.
Yeah, he's optimistic. He always is. But I believe him. I mean, he's the best estimator I've ever worked with. So when he feels good about things, I believe that.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'll just say we had our first steel decrease in 2 years this week. decrease in steel price is 15 cents. So that's how much it's moving now.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Oh, and for the estimator, let's sharpen that pencil. All right, let's go to action items. First item is to approve the financials for January.
Another month that I don't have just a ton of things to report. We are 59% of the way through the school year, so we're over the hump. We have received 62% of the projected overall revenue for the year. As far as comparing our local collections, but if you look at your chart, we are about $250,000 ahead of where we were this time last year. So we're kind of really, when you're talking millions and millions of dollars, we're running neck and neck where we were last year. Am I excited that we're on the plus side? Yes. I'm optimistic that we will gather everything that's projected for our local revenues as of this moment. Teacher salary expenditures on the next page, they're at 52%. And that's because the majority of our teachers or our certified staff don't get paid in July. So they run about a month behind. So at 52%, which is 6 pays, at 52%, we're actually pretty spot on, because that also includes the few that do get paid in July, which are extended contract people or administrators and things like that. So that'll skew the numbers just a little bit. Flipping all the way to the back, we have finally broken in and spent some of our building fund money this past month. So we started paying some architect fees and things like that on our administration building. And then we recently bought that piece of land that's adjacent to our property there on Sherry Whitlock. So we're finally dipping into that reserve that we had set aside for those things. Do you all have any questions?
Awesome. Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we need to approve a prep period.
Did a few of these last month. Jared was not included in that group last month. Jared Wyatt has agreed to teach through his prep period to cover some classes that we need covered at the high school. Would recommend that we approve the extra pay for him to do so.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. District calendar.
Good evening. Every year this month, we bring to you a calendar for the next school year. I'm going to just quickly review some of the parameters that we have to follow in developing a calendar. A basic teacher contract is for 190 days, and that is 178 student days, 2 parent-teacher conference days, and no fewer than 6 PD days. Now, if you add 178, 2, and 6, you end up with 4 extra days, and we make those professional development days. So there's 10 PD days. A quarter must have at least 40 days and no more than 50. We have to build in 5 inclement weather days. And the current uniform start date, this is a big change for this year, is beginning with the 22-23 school year. The first day of the school year shall not be earlier than the Monday 2 weeks before Labor Day. So that falls August 22nd, this coming up year, which puts us about a week later in our start time. We previously had a waiver approved by the State Board of Education to start earlier in the school year. With that law, they wiped out all waivers. So we don't have a waiver anymore that would allow us to start before that August 22nd. Well, when you push that start date back a little bit, that impacts everything else in your calendar. So our current calendar for this year that we're in right now, we have some federal holidays off. We have Martin Luther King Day off, and we usually schedule Good Friday off.
for our students and staff. We have professional development days throughout the year so that teachers can do some ongoing PD. Typically, we have 2 weeks off at Christmas time, and we usually try to end the semester prior to Christmas break. We have 1 week of spring break that's designated by the week 38 of the AAA calendar, so we can't just randomly choose when that is. That is told it is this week. And we do build in snow days where we can in the spring. So, you know, if we cannot use an AMI day, then we have some snow days. Typically when we start with calendar development, we start with the current year calendar, we lay it on next year's dates, and we see what that looks like. Well, again, this year, you know, with the change in the start date, that doesn't exactly work. And then we develop some other calendars based on teacher input and staff input. So we developed 5 different options this year, and really we kind of started with 3, and then PPC said, hey, what about this, what about this? We got up to 5, PPC went back, they said, okay, let's narrow back down to 3. So they chose the 3 they really liked, and we started our discussion there. So the first calendar they considered was, we call it Calendar B, and it was the Let's Finish Before Memorial Day calendar. And when we tried to do that, basically we put 8 professional development days on the front end of the calendar. That is a lot of days for our teachers. You know, it's just a lot. I went back and I was looking through calendars of years past. There were some years we only had 5 PD days at the beginning of the year. And I mean, that's just a lot for our brand new teachers coming. They come to us, a lot of them do professional development during the summer. Then they take 2 days to do new teacher training, and then we tack on 6 or 7 or 8 days at the beginning. It's a lot of learning right there at the beginning of the school year. So calendar B, we had 8 days at the beginning, 2 flex days. A flex day is when your teachers do professional development on non-contract time, say during the summer, after hours, on weekends, and then they get a day off during the year on a designated PD day. Okay, so every calendar has 2 flex days. Down from 3, we had 3 flex days this year because we had some significant training that we were trying to wrap up last summer. We don't have that same need as much next year, so we went down to 2 flex days. Calendar B had 3 days off at Thanksgiving. We were in school on Good Friday, but we were able to finish school by May 26th. So that was one option. Calendar C, we only put 7 days of PD at the beginning of school, had 2 flex days, had a PD day in January when right after the first of the year, teachers come back, they have a professional development day, and then students come back that following day. A week off at Thanksgiving. We had Good Friday off. School is out on June 2nd with calendar C. And then calendar D, we made a small shift at a teacher request or staff request to move Christmas break a little bit, to adjust those dates to start on the 21st rather than the 19th. Well, what that does from a staff point of view is you really only have 2 weekends off during that break, if that makes sense. Instead of ending on a Friday, that would have put us ending like on a Wednesday. And but that's what some asked for, so that was option D. Both PPC and classified PPC received all 3 calendars for review. They met multiple times in January to make a recommendation, and both Lori Boyd, representing certified PPC, and John Blair, representing classified PPC, are present to speak to their recommendation.
Good evening. I'm all tongue-tied, sorry. I was quiet for so long, now I get to talk again. The Personnel Policy Committee met several times. It was interesting to have just one single law take such an effect on our calendar. And when we were first discussing it, and I think we had maybe 3 to begin with. And then I said to Kelly, I said, well, how many do you want to come up with? And so we ended up with 5. And then I said, okay, we need to get this whittled down. Because honestly, I didn't want to try and have us take those to our campuses and try to explain that many different options and all the different variations. And so we got it down to 3, which in my 3 years of experience on this committee, that's been the norm. And so getting it down to those 3 made it a little bit easier, simplified the process just a little bit more. And I think we had 3 to 5, we were meeting almost every week through the month of January in these discussions. And then getting feedback from our own buildings and campuses about these different things. When we finally settled on a calendar recommendation, it was interesting. It was through the discussion, there was so much that we saw good and bad in all 3 of them. And finally, when we finally said, okay, what do our campuses really want? And then we kind of went from there. And there wasn't necessarily an overwhelming majority, but the calendar proposal that you have in front of you, calendar C, is the one that was favored more by the campuses in the district. So it is my recommendation for you to look over and approve calendar C for the upcoming school year.
And John Blair is going to speak on the behalf of the classified PPC. And I'm happy to jump in and answer any questions that you might have.
Full disclosure, I'm a full-time employee, so the calendar has really not affected me ever. But I will tell you, I do know our committee unanimously chose C, and that's really all I know about the calendar. So.
Couple of questions. First, did we do the full week Thanksgiving?
Yes, sir, we did.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
At one time, we had flex days designated there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We had some not so positive feedback on that, and so we went to a full
It's been
week.
2 or 3 years, right?
Yes.
Do it? Yes, that was
2 or 3 years, something like that. Okay. And then the other question I have is, why do we have to build in the snow days when we have the AMI
days? It is still in law. I think that's the best I can tell you, and I can give you the law. That's Arkansas Code 610-106.
There you go.
Under uniform start date, it's still there. And the AMI application process that we've talked, I know in our office, the application for those to be eligible for those days is usually at the beginning of the school year, which does not run alongside when you're making your calendar. So in the fine print of the calendar, we have, if approved by the Department of Education for AMI days, we can use either AMI days or snow days. And, with any calendar or any decision, you're not going to make everybody happy. Right. And we know that some parents prefer just give us a straight up snow day and not AMI days. We know that, and that's not an easy decision for Mr. Wiggins to have to make when he makes that call. But I do know in June, a lot of our people are really happy when they're not in school. Mm-hmm. So I'm thankful that we are able to offer AMI days when we can, with the understanding that there will be some people that would prefer to be here in June until it's June.
So if we don't use the snow days, we get out 5 days earlier.
No.
Well, the way they're built in right now, is usually it's Martin Luther King Day, and then usually it's one of our flex days. And that gets a little bit strange with teacher contract, and then we add them on at the end of the year. Okay. So that would start after, June 2nd in that particular calendar.
So June 2nd is the earliest we'll get out. Is that right?
June 2nd is the end date for calendar C.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Motion to approve calendar C.
There you go.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you for all your work and teachers and staff and all. I know this is tough. But as I was listening to that, just a quick comment that for the teachers, they get to see a side of all the state direction that we receive all the time. So, it is what it is. So, okay, now we'll go to item D, proposal for personnel policy changes.
So in a moment, you'll get to hear from John and Lori again. I'm going to remind you, we bring you personnel policies to approve usually in March or April, a whole bunch of them that have been changed because of law or whatever. And so when we do that, most times we go in kind of a reverse order from what we're doing tonight, and we suggest something to the PPC. We put all of these policies out, have them review them, and by law, they have 10 days to review those, give you an opinion, and then you all can vote on it. The other direction, it can be proposed from the Personnel Policies Committee to you, and when they propose something to you all have the option of either approving it, denying it, or taking it under consideration and coming back to them with something later. Okay, so tonight, Lori and John are here representing the Personnel Policies Committees, the classified and certified, and they have something, it's actually 4 policies, 2 on the certified side, 2 on the classified side, and they're exactly the same, but we have separate chapters in the book for those 2, for certified and classified. So they're going to propose these to you all, and then it's in your court. Okay. I'll turn it over to John.
All right. I'm John Blair. I'm here representing the Classified Personnel Policy Committee. Joined, as he said, by Lori Boyd, who's representing the Certified Personnel Policy Committee. The reason being the policies, as he said, would affect both committees. So, and we really started this endeavor looking at ways to possibly move the dial when it comes to recruitment, retention, those types of things. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is vacation. Currently, the district does not have a vacation policy for full-time employees. We receive 10 non-contract days each year to use at our discretion, but they must be used within that fiscal year, and if they're not, you lose them. There's no opportunity to roll them over, plan a 3-week vacation, for instance, so it's not very flexible. What we propose is, I'll do my best to explain this. What we propose is taking half of those non-contract days, 5 of them, and turning them into vacation days, and we do that by putting them within the contract. The problem with non-contract days is they don't have value, they can't be rolled over. When they're within the contract, they have value, they can be rolled over. So doing it, but then on the other side of that, we are left still with 5 non-contract days. And then we have 5, we'll call them undesignated days at the moment. So we discussed what to do with the undesignated days. We considered, for instance, maybe making those additional vacation days based on years of service, something like that. We tried to consider the impact on the district. So where we ended up is proposing turn those days into 5 unpaid holidays. That way the district could better plan for staffing needs because they know exactly when everyone's going to be gone. Yeah, that covers that. So, and also if you're wondering, at least this is where I started. I originally thought when I started this process is we'll just change the contract length. That makes sense. That seems easy. Not a problem. Terry was kind enough to inform me that that would not work. So there's a good reason for that. Everyone's not paid the same. Some are paid on an index, some are paid on a daily rate, for instance. So what would happen is if we change the contract length, effectively, some people would get a raise, others people would not. And we didn't think that was fair. So that is, we'll call it the highlights of the journey to reconcile a new policy with a district calendar and a 240-day contract. So the next part I want to talk about is not a new policy, it's an existing policy concerning sick days. Now, sick days, like vacation days, have value. They're allowed to be rolled over. We can, in fact, in the district accumulate up to 90 sick days. And once you're at 90, the days over that, you're paid each year for any days over 90. The issue, at least as I see it, is the policy for some reason when you retire, those sick days that did have value, all of a sudden the first 30 no longer have value. They're worth 0. So on retirement, you're paid for day 31 through 90, right? Yeah. So we're just proposing that we remove that small statement. I don't know if you saw the policy in excess of 30 days to put it more in line with, well, really, as far as I know, all the other school districts in Arkansas, but full disclosure on that, I don't know that for certain, but I can tell you for certain the 50-plus school personnel policies I've read were all at least 90, if not higher. So we would appreciate you considering that. So.
And I'm only here mainly in support. We do have 240-day contract staff and faculty that are also certified or licensed. So therefore, I've presented the two similar policies. They're just written in for licensed personnel at this time. And I think that even though our personnel policy committee for certified also has had some of those admin people on the committee, while they spoke to the policies in a positive way, they did abstain from voting in our committee on that, so that just to kind of even that playing field a bit, and I respect them very much for that. But I appreciated their input, because as a 190-day contract person, I don't have that perspective, and so I'm hoping that you guys will definitely take this into serious consideration, especially when he brought up the retention of our employees. We know that now is a time that's very trying in education, where we are losing people quickly. And while it may not seem that just one policy change might make that big of a difference, you never know. It might actually make a pretty good difference, and it might even be the deciding factor as to whether some of our 240-day contract people stay or go somewhere else. So thank you for considering it.
Thank you.
John you have 4 policies in your packet. John has also given you a written rationale at the back of that, and then he's given you a table at the back where he did some research, and I believe compared our district with, I didn't count them, but approximately 15 other districts, 12 to 15, about half of them smaller than us, about half of them larger than us, and how they deal with these same issues. And we are, from that table, we are out of line on these 2 policies with how those other districts are dealing with that. So,
on the retired side of it, for the sick leave and stuff, is there minimum years of prior to?
No.
So 1 year and retire and.
But because school districts can transfer sick days from one school district to another, we years ago chose to cap it at 90. You know, that's all the sick days you can roll over. After that, you get paid out at the end of the year. Those sick days are also valued at a sub rate, not the daily rate of pay of the person that is retiring. And the main reason is those first 30 days you earned 5-10 years ago, when your pay was much different than it is when you're retiring. The thought process is you retire at your highest pay rate. So the days you earn in the last 5 years have much more value than those that you earned in your first 5 years. And so it's easier to help budget when you can look and see how many possible retirees you're going to have and be able to project, and it helps with budgeting. And also, you know, you've heard some of school districts that are paying out hundreds of thousands of dollars to retiring employees, and it just kind of helps us with being able to be more fiscally responsible with our tax dollars.
Okay, to be clear, with 90 days at sub rate, we wouldn't be paying out hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, that's why we cap it.
And I want to make sure that your question got answered. What was the question that you asked?
For required retirement, how many years?
Any number of years.
Okay, they do have to work, they do have to work 28 years in education in the state of Arkansas or reach retirement age to be able to officially retire with Arkansas Teacher Retirement. 25 years under certain circumstances. So they do have to meet, for them to retire and fall under this policy, they would have to meet those requirements.
But they do not have to work a certain number of years
No.
in this district.
Right.
No.
No, just in the state.
The thought is because the transfer of days as teachers move back and forth amongst districts that they can transfer, even though, let's say we had a teacher work 1 year and retire and they had 90 days they brought with them, so we're gonna pay them for that 90. This person worked 1 year, we're gonna pay them out this 90. Well, we have also lost people who have moved to other districts and they take it over there and they have to deal with it. So it all balances out in the end because they trade among the districts and go back and forth in the state.
And I would ask Terry, do either of these policy changes put us in any kind of financial risk? Do you have a problem with either one of them from a financial standpoint? Okay. Yeah.
So we can table it to
You can.
vote on it until March.
If you would like to think about it, you can table it, and then you have the opportunity as a board to prepare something to change and send back to them, or ask us to do that, and we could do that at the next board meeting, or you have the option of approving it tonight or denying it tonight. Those are the three options.
If we do a motion to approve, but 2 board members still want to table till March, like they want time to read through this more, will they?
Well,
What?
no, because if,
Well, right.
yeah,
And if it's not approved, then it doesn't go through.
right,
Right, so,
but if it's approved, it does go.
right,
Do you have a recommendation?
Me?
yeah.
No.
Yeah, I would like to maybe table it.
What
and
about
chew on it
superintendent?
some more and see what kind of questions
Right.
If you
come up with.
Yeah.
Not that,
Right, exactly.
not against it at all, but, you know, I think maybe we need to think through
I
it.
want to know what the superintendent's recommendation is.
There are some specific parts. In general, I am for both policies. There are some specific parts that I'd like to take a look at and run some numbers on personally. And then my recommendation would be to get back with them next month and give them an answer.
Okay. So do we make a motion to table? Okay, so I make a motion to table this until March board meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a lot of good stuff to think about there. And I think we can come up with something everybody would be happy with. Well, that brings us to executive session for the purpose of resignation. So, lengthy reports tonight has kind of pushed us.
It has. They were good reports, though.
Huh?
They were good reports.
Yeah, they were, but we hadn't had an 8 o'clocker in a while.
This will go quick now.
All right, we'll call ourselves back into open session, and item F, approve renewal of assistant superintendent contract.
I would like to recommend that we renew Amy Carter and Shane Patrick's contracts for next year. I will say that both of them are exceptional at what they do. I appreciate them so much, and they make my job easier. And one of my request to the board when I took this job was to be able to have 2 assistant superintendents one for the academic side of the house and one for the operations side of the house. We have that, and I thank you for giving us that opportunity to have that. The last 3 years have been nothing like usual in the school business, and both of them were hired for a job with a job description that has grown exponentially in the last 2 years. And hopefully at some point some of those things come back off the plate that got added to them as our situations change. But I am very, very appreciative of both Amy and Shane for what they do for our school district. They are tireless workers, both of them. I believe that they have the respect of our faculty and staff. I happily recommend both of them to be renewed.
I make a motion to approve renewal of assistant superintendent contracts.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations.
Thank you guys for the work you're doing.
Yes, very, very good.
Give them a round of applause. All right, now we'll go to resignations.
I have several resignations for this evening. I'm going to read through them and talk about a few. Darlene Mock, Middle School Choir, Music. Laura LeBrier, Middle School Special Education. Ashley Pledger, High School Library Media Specialist. Debbie Chamberlain, High School Special Education, TOSA. TOSA is our paperwork person for special ed. Rob Lindley, High School Principal. Barb Mackin, Northside Behavior Interventionist, and Jerry Price, Northside Principal. I'll first say, in Laura LeBrier's resignation that you received to begin with in your packet has been revised for the date of the resignation to be the end of the year. And so that has been updated in your digital packet. So when we vote on that, when we vote on these, I would like it noted that you're voting on the revised version of Laura's along with everyone else's. I will talk about Rob. Rob is a personal friend of mine. We go back a long ways, and I am thankful for Rob's 3 years at the high school. He's done an incredible job, and he will be missed by faculty and staff over there, and I am appreciative of Rob for coming out and joining us for the last 3 years here, and I wish him well. Jerry Price, another administrative team member. Jerry has been a lifelong Panther, and I hope continues to be a Panther even if she's not working for us. This is her 27th year in the working for the Siloam Springs School District. If you had her 13 years as a student, I guess that's 40 years as a Panther.
My whole life.
The whole life. Jerry, I am very thankful for her willingness to change from a secondary person to a very elementary person for the last couple of years to lead Northside Elementary, and she's done a fabulous job. I can't say enough good things about those two principals who are leaving us, and we will have a hard time replacing them. And I will miss them both, and I wish both of you well. And then Deb Chamberlain, I'm not sure, I should have looked that up. 33. How many? 33 years in Siloam Springs, correct? Debbie has been a pillar for our special ed program since I came here 20 years ago. And I have the utmost respect for her and her work, and she will be missed. Barb Mackin is going to be missed at Northside. Jerry mentioned her earlier in her presentation that she's one of the leaders over there, and wish all of them well. So I recommend that you approve all of these resignations, and specifically for Laura, that it be the the revised version, maybe.
So I'd like to say something, just even till last month, I was out on, calling in on that one. And Lori Wilkinson, we received her retirement, right? And I just want to say, I mean, it's just amazing the people I've gotten to meet from when Monica was teaching so many years. And so Lori Wilkinson, I want to congratulate her on her retirement. And then Jerry, getting to know her through Monica as well has been just a joy, and it's going to be a huge loss, I think, to our school district, but so happy for you in this new venture. So
I'm happy for you too. And you're going to be
I'm not either.
You're going to be successful no matter what you do. You're amazing.
How about a motion?
Motion to approve license resignations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, guys. No hiring staff?
No, sir.
Sick leaves? Transfers?
We have 2 transfers requesting to come in to Siloam Springs School District from Gentry. Xavier Garcia, age 5, Joshua Amaya Jr., age 12. Recommend that we approve those.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Now we have some going out.
We have 4 requesting to go to Gentry. Jeremiah Olinghouse, age 16, Aspen Womack, age 9, Lily Womack, age 8, Ava Duncan, age 15. We have 1 requesting to go to Springdale, Ethan Brumley, age 13, and 1 requesting to go to Fayetteville, Caleb Collins, age 5. Would recommend that you approve those out.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to other business.
I have just a few things to inform you about. We had some classified resignations in the last month. William Wharton, transportation bus driver, although he is staying on his food service position, and Maria Montoya, food service, and then some classified hires: Fabiola Manal, Northside administrative assistant, Abby Olenek, Southside special ed paraprofessional, and Kira Anderson, Southside special ed paraprofessional. That's all I have.
Motion to go home.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.